आशीष प्रभु आगे आगे
रेडी है क्या?
सब रेडी
अरे वाह
प्रभु आप ये लेके जाइए महाराज के हाँ महाराज आएंगे ना पूरा
शबा
Prabhu, you can operate.
Rohan, Tublu. వదులుతా లేదా వదులు కృష్ణ హరే కృష్ణ కృష్ణ హరే రామ హరే రామ
Ramo Ramo Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare सर पटकन प्रभु बंद
ముందు నుంచి చేయమంటారు.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Yes, welcome. His Holiness Bhakti Vidyanath Narasimha Maharaj. Proudly by Gauri Shanti Hare Krishna Maharaj recites Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Brief introduction about Maharaj. Maharaj is disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj is initiated in 1971 and in 72 Maharaj received second initiation. Last 25 years Maharaj has been preaching in the Southeast Asian countries and Russia and China, and sometimes in India also. He is also a teacher of Mayapur Institute. Maharaj is teaching Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, and Bhakti Sarvabhauma. And Southeast Asian countries where Maharaj is teaching are Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand. And through his years of preaching, he has given many many souls he has made them devotees, gave practical guidance and inspiration. Maharaj was given sannyas in the year of 1994 from His Holiness Ramakrishna Goswami Maharaj. Maharaj always rested in his sadhana and simplicity until his daily life. So we are very fortunate to have Maharaj here today on the auspicious occasion of Radhashtami. Hare Krishna. And Maharaj is going to speak about some memories of Srila Prabhupada, after the flower abhishek. So initially we have Kirtan and flower abhishek, and then Maharaj will speak. There is prasadam for everybody after the program. Hare Krishna.
जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधा गोपीनाथ श्री राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधा गोपीनाथ श्री राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Tahagana Raghunatham Vipam Tam Sajevam Tadvaitam Sarvadutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Harite Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Prachakya Deshakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It was a very auspicious day. We celebrated the Radhastami. I've been celebrating since early morning. I came from the Attarpur Center over there in Hyderabad, and we had first of all, after Mangalarti, we went out on Harinam Sankirtan, and then we came back and we did Prabhupada Guru Puja, and then we spoke on the pastimes of Srimati Radharani, then we had also the Abhishek, and then we had a very wonderful Gora midday Aarti, and many guests came. It was a very successful program. Everyone was chanting and dancing with great enthusiasm. I'm very happy to see all of you here this evening. There's so many nice men here doing wonderful kirtan. Very good. We can see the future is very bright. Nice devotees in the making. This is what Prabhupada wanted. So the Prabhupada will be very pleased to see all of you participating in this Krishna consciousness movement. So I had the opportunity to come to Krishna consciousness more than 50 years ago. I joined in London in the year 1971. You can understand, I was about 21. But you know how old I am now. So anyway, I was 21 when I came to Krishna consciousness. I came out of university. I studied at university. I completed my studies in engineering. And after my graduation, I moved to London and met the devotees. No, actually, first I met Prabhupada. You could say I met the devotees. I met the devotees through their recording. They had recorded the Hare Krishna mantra, and they had recorded the Govinda record. So that was the music which introduced me to Krishna consciousness. I had also seen a Back to Godhead magazine. In the Back to Godhead magazine, I remember it had a wonderful illustration of Lord Nrsimhadev on the cover. And then later on, after I had finished my studies and gone to London, I was working in a job there. I had seen a book entitled Krishna, the Personality of Godhead. And it was a beautiful book. It was a big silver-colored book with the beautiful picture of Radha and Krishna on the cover. And inside were many illustrations. So I was very attracted to the book, and I purchased it and took it home. I showed my friend, and he said, "Oh, I've got a book by the same person." And amazing, this is 1971. You can imagine. It wasn't very common. There were not many books, actually. When we joined the movement, in those days there were very less books. Anyway, the Krishna book had come out, volume 1. And somehow my friend, he had a book. He had a book called The Topmost Yoga System. So I took him and I read it, and I was surprised that I could actually understand it. Because I'd been reading books by other spiritual teachers, but I never really felt that I could understand what they were talking about. It was not very clear. The way that the language and the presentation, what they were talking about, you know, the oneness and the merging, and you know, as everything flows into the ocean and becomes one. I was like, what is this all about? It was not very appealing to me. But Srila Prabhupada made it very clear to us that by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we could awaken our spiritual consciousness. And that we are all spiritual living entities. And we all have an eternal relationship with God. And so that was very meaningful to me, and I was very happy to know that by chanting Hare Krishna, I could make so much progress in my life. I was looking for a teacher, I was looking for a guide, and somehow Prabhupada came to me in the form of his books. And then I remembered, you know, I used to purchase incense. And the incense I used to purchase was made by Hare Krishna people. The devotees who had come to the UK had come from the USA, and in the USA they had began making incense. And they called the incense spiritual sky. Spiritual sky incense. And it was different from Indian incense. You know, Indian incense is mild and gentle, but the incense which they were making was very strong, powerful aromas like strawberry and cherry and lemon and these kind of odors, you know, very strong smelling. So I used to purchase this incense, and on the packet of the incense it used to say that there's a temple, there's a center in London, and people can come. And you're invited to come for sunrise meditation. And also we have a Sunday program. and you can come and enjoy the vegetarian food. And so I used to read this on the packet, but somehow I never went. You know, I was busy with other things, living in a place like London. There's a lot to do, a lot of things to occupy you. But after I got the book, and after I read the book, then I thought, I have to go. I should go to the temple. So I began to go to the temple, and it was a surprise for me to meet the devotees there. At that time, the temple had only been open like maybe a year or so, or 2 years. The devotees were not many. There was about 15 or 18 young men. And they were all like 18 or 20. I was old, I was 21. So that was the beginning of our Krishna consciousness movement. We were all young. There were 2 ladies there, but they were not British. One was from France, and the other one was from America. And somehow they were there in England, and they were both devotees. So I came to the temple and I attended the arti. And when we had arti, we had a lot of, it was amazing how the enthusiasm which the devotees had during the arti. They had already installed deities there. The deities are worshipped still today. Radha, London, Ishwara, named by Srila Prabhupada. Beautiful Radha and Krishna deities which were donated. When the devotees found a place for a temple, Srila Prabhupada said, you have to have deities, you should have some deity. But where to get deities from? England. We had no idea where we could find deities. But then somehow they heard that there was one Indian community who had deities of Radha and Krishna. But there was some problem with the deities and they were not going to install them. What had happened was the little finger on the hand of Radharani had cracked. So because of that, they decided that, oh, we cannot install the deities. So anyway, Srila Prabhupada heard about it, and he went with the devotees. There was a few devotees from USA were there, and they went with Prabhupada to see the man and to see the deities. So they came there and they met the Indian gentleman, and he was very nice to them and very friendly. And Prabhupada was reciprocating, and he was being very friendly with the man and thanking him and everything. And then Prabhupada then said, so we will take the deities. And the man said, no, just wait, just no. And then, no, Prabhupada said, no, it's okay. He said, pick them up, can you manage? And tomorrow, yes, Prabhupada, no problem. You know? So they picked up the deities. The man, no, wait. Prabhupada, go. And this way, they kind of kidnapped the deities, Radha and Krishna. And after they got the deities into the temple where they were going, Prabhupada said, he said, Radharani personally cracked the finger just so that she could come to us. It was the arrangement of Radha and Krishna that they could worship in our temple rather than in this other place. So that way they had installed the deity. They were actually the first large-size deities of Radha and Krishna anywhere in the world to be worshipped by the ISKCON devotees. It was the first set of deities. And they made their appearance by their own by their own arrangements. We didn't buy them from Jaipur or anything like that. They personally come there, and they personally came to Prabhupada, and they could be installed in our temple there. So the devotees were worshipping these deities, and we were all very young devotees. The Prabhupada had taken all the senior devotees with him to India for preaching. They had come to London and they'd opened the temple, but then Prabhupada told them, now you come with me to India. And so they all left, these senior devotees who had come to England, they all left and went to India because they thought, oh great, we're going to go to India. And then they were really excited and they wanted to go to India and help Prabhupada to begin Krishna consciousness in India. But it left very few people there in the temple in London. And so there, like I say, there was about 15 or 18 devotees there, and they were all young. Most of them not initiated. Oh, there was one Indian person there. I was surprised. I remember when I came to the temple, I was surprised. I thought, oh, even an Indian person has joined this. Of course, most of our devotees today are Indian, Hindu origin. But in those days, it was all Westerners. But there was this one Indian young man who joined. And he's still a devotee. Maybe you mentioned, did you ever meet Subhas Swami? Yes, Subhas Swami? So he joined in London. His parents had sent him to London because when he was growing up in Calcutta, he was associated with many sadhus. His parents thought, well, we don't want him to become a sadhu. So we'll send him to England to get education. So he went to England and he met devotees and he became a devotee. And he was living in the temple. Now he actually should have been initiated, but he said, I want to wait till Prabhupada comes. He said, I want to take it personally from Prabhupada when he comes. And so later on Prabhupada did come. He came. He was, we were always waiting, when is Prabhupada coming, when is he coming? And the pujari, there was this one French lady, she was like the pujari. She was the only one who was doing the puja, because she was the only one who was initiated. So she would always, Prabhupada's coming very soon. Prabhupada's coming very soon. But it went on week after week, and became months, and Prabhupada's coming very soon. Then finally it happened. So that was very, when Prabhupada came to the temple, came to London, we all went to the airport. In those days, airports were much nicer than they are today. Today, you don't get in airports, there's so much security and everything. But in those days, it was much more slack. There were no such things as terrorists and all of this. So we all went to the airport, and we were all sitting there in the airport chanting and waiting for Prabhupada to come. And then, middle of the night, Prabhupada came. It was the middle of the night, Prabhupada came on a flight from USA, and we just saw Prabhupada appearing, and he just smiled at all of us, and we all fell down on the ground, offered our obeisances, and Prabhupada just got in the car and went back to the temple. So we had all rushed back to the temple to go to see Prabhupada. Prabhupada was actually living with us in London, in our little temple. We had a rented place there in London. It was a small building which we had rented. So what happened was a devotee came from one of the senior devotees came from California, and he came to London and he saw our center and he said, "Oh no, Prabhupada stay here." He said, "This room is not good enough for Prabhupada. No, these conditions are not very good." He said, no, but this is not really suitable to have Prabhupada here in this place. So he wrote to Prabhupada and he told Prabhupada, he said, "Prabhupada, when you come to London, we will get you a hotel room. We'll get you a suite in the hotel." But Prabhupada wrote back, he said, "I don't want to stay in a hotel. I want to stay in the temple." He said, "I like that room." So Prabhupada said, we did it. Although we were many people all living in the house, but Prabhupada was happy to be there in the temple. And Prabhupada liked to stay in temples, didn't like to stay in hotels. And later on, of course, George Harrison purchased what's called the Bhaktivedanta Manor. And then Prabhupada would go and stay there. But still he would come to visit the other temple which was there in London. So Prabhupada liked to be with the devotees. He liked to be with all of us. And every morning he would go for a walk. The doctor had told him that, "Swamiji, you should walk. It'll be good for your heart. Every morning you should get some exercise." And so Prabhupada took it seriously. Every morning he would go out on a walk. And devotees also, we would like to go with Prabhupada and walk with Prabhupada. We have to be careful though. You have to be careful because, devotees, when we're walking, we like to hear what Prabhupada is saying. And sometimes you try to get too close. And you may even hit Prabhupada's foot or something. So Prabhupada, don't get too close. Don't. You have to be very careful walking with Prabhupada. So sometimes they would restrict who could go with Prabhupada, who gets to go with Prabhupada on the walk. And sometimes we'd have a car. In those days, our movement was very young. We didn't even have a car at first. And somehow we managed to get one vehicle just for Prabhupada's use when he came. Because Prabhupada liked to go to big parks, walk in the park in the morning. And so we'd have a car to take Prabhupada to the park. But then to go in the park, not everybody can go in the car. So only a few people go with Prabhupada. So it's not very easy to get a lot of association with Prabhupada. You have to understand, when I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, I was very new. I didn't know anything. I come out of the material world, and I'd only been studying engineering, mathematics, and all these horrible things. That was the only thing I knew. I knew the Laplace transformations and Fourier analysis, but I didn't know anything about Bhagavad Gita. And so, being with Prabhupada, I really didn't have much to say to Prabhupada. I would just try to hear Prabhupada. I put my concentration in hearing whatever Prabhupada was saying. I didn't try to question Prabhupada or, get in a discussion with him or anything. I was very new. Prabhupada was 70-something years old, and he spent his whole life in devotional consciousness, growing up as a devotee. He was always Krishna conscious. He said, there was never a time when I did not think of Krishna. So, although Prabhupada had been working and he had his family and everything, but still, he said, never was there a time when I was not Krishna conscious. And in his life, he had followed the principles. He'd never even drank tea in his whole life. So I was coming out of a very Western culture. You know, I didn't have that kind of upbringing at all. And I was aware of my cultural lacking. So I kept quiet when I was around Srila Prabhupada. I didn't want to show my ignorance. And mainly would try to hear. Of course, sometimes my ignorance would be exposed. Just like one time when Prabhupada was there in England, it happened that a newspaper reporter came. Not actually a newspaper, it was a magazine. There was a magazine which was published there in the UK. And the reporter was interviewing people. And somehow he came and talked to me. And I was just a new devotee. I'd only just joined the movement, you know. But he was speaking to me and asking me about Krishna consciousness. And then he would ask me, I don't know. He asked me, I remember, he asked me, what is this AC, Bhaktivedanta? I don't know. I really didn't know anything. I was just totally new, you know. And somehow I started to talk things which I'd read from Mayavadi books, because I'd read about different other spiritual teachers, and I was influenced by a lot of nonsense philosophy. And when the newspaper, when that reporter wrote his article, he put some of the things which I said there in the article. And somehow Prabhupada, they read the article to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, this is not good. Who said these things? He said, people have to learn the philosophy. All the devotees have to learn the philosophy. So that was my instruction. I got that instruction that I should read Prabhupada's books carefully and I should learn the philosophy. So I'm still trying to do that. I'm still studying Prabhupada's books, and I find it helpful also to be teaching Krishna consciousness, teaching with the Mayapur Institute. We have many classes. I've been teaching there since the beginning of the Mayapur Institute, nearly 20 years. We began by just having seminars during the Gaur Purnima, but it's developed more and more, and we have classes going on. Usually all the classes are online. We use Zoom and give lectures to devotees all over the world. People come and take our courses, the Bhakti Shastri course, where they study the Bhagavad Gita and Ishopanishad, nectar of instruction, nectar of devotion. And then others who are more serious, they go on and study Bhakti Vaibhav, the first 6 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then those really serious, they study Bhakti Sarvabhauma, which is canto 7 up to canto 12. And then there's another course where you study Chaitanya Charitamrita. So actually these courses, this was there in Gaudiya Math. So Prabhupada knew that it was there in the Gaudiya Math, and he brought it into the ISKCON society. He said, our devotees also, we should also have this kind of course, education, study of the books, very important. Prabhupada writes that it's good to read the books, but it's more important when you explain the books and discuss them together. You need to discuss together and you need to explain them, not just simply read. Often you can read and then put the book down. You ask them, what did you read? Oh, no, I don't remember. Right? People are like that sometimes. We read, but we don't read very carefully. And whatever's there, it just doesn't go in. We don't really absorb it. So it's important for us with Prabhupada's books that we don't just simply read them, or sometimes you hear, and we say goes in one ear and goes out the other. Right? So that's not what you want. You want it to come in and go to the heart. The message should go to the heart. We have to clean the heart. So it's very important to hear very carefully. And we have to hear for a long time. Because remember, we are Nitya Bada. We are eternally conditioned souls. Meaning, we've been in this material world a very long time. So our conditioning is very deep. Deep in the sense that we're very attached to the material body and the things in relation to this body. We think of aham and mamiti. I am this body. This means I have these senses. And we think that life is just meant for satisfying the senses. But that is not Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada wanted all of us to read his books, to study his books carefully. So I remember Prabhupada came to London and he gave us all initiation. Initiation is important. Sometimes people think, oh, I'm reading, I'm chanting, I don't need to get initiated. Why get initiated? No, it's important because initiation is the commitment to the practice of Krishna consciousness. And we have to be committed to chanting and to serving Krishna and following the principles of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes people are just thinking, oh, it's okay, I don't need to be initiated, I'm already chanting, I'm doing everything. But if you're not initiated, you don't have the official connection to Krishna. And that's very important. We need the spiritual teacher, Srila Prabhupada, there as the founder of the Krishna consciousness movement. We need to have a connection to him and to the great acharyas because they will bring us to Krishna. So that connection is very important. So I was fortunate, although I was very young and new, but Prabhupada accepted me and said, we all got, mostly practically everybody in the temple got initiated that time. And that time Subha also got his initiation. Prabhupada gave, that's why he gave him the name Subha, very auspicious. He came to London to get Krishna consciousness. But an interesting thing happened when we got initiation, that the next day Prabhupada called the temple president to his room. And he said, he said, yesterday I gave your men initiation. They said, I gave them all initiation. They said, none of them gave me any Guru Dakshin. And so the temple president laughed, so just like you were laughing. He said, Prabhupada, they don't have any money. So that was the situation in 1971. We joined the Krishna consciousness movement. And when we joined, we just gave whatever, we would give everything. Because we were just maintaining the temple. The temple was, the devotees were just simply those living in the ashram. And there was no congregation. We had not cultivated the congregation yet. We were a new society. And so it takes time to gather supporters and to get people to contribute. It takes time to develop faith. in the Krishna consciousness movement. I remember I came to Hyderabad in 1978. I was asked, actually they asked me, temple president of the temple there in Hyderabad in 1978. The temple had been opened in 1976 and there was still no door on the temple. There was no door. I used to sleep every night in the doorway because there was no door. It was a very basic temple when we opened it. I just went there a month ago, last time I was here in Hyderabad, a couple of months ago, I went there to Abbott's and I saw the temple and I couldn't recognize it. It's changed so much. From the days when I was there in 1978, the temple was opened, but it was very basic. The land had been donated by Pulareddy, the sweet man, and we raised the funds by doing life membership programs. The devotees would travel around and request people to become a life member. And in this way we'd get funds to build the temple and to make the temple. But it was very different. And similarly in London, we had the temple, they rented the house, we were struggling to pay the rent. We did not have any real income. Our income was simply by distributing Back to Godhead magazine. Out on the streets every day in London and we would chant Hare Krishna. We would do Sankirtan on the street every day. And we would take books. The only books we had were Back to Godhead magazines, and we had that Krishna book, volume 1, which had been donated. The money for that had been donated by the English musician. So that was the only books we had. And if you could sell a Krishna book, wow, we would be in ecstasy. We'd think, wonderful, we could sell one book. And it was very challenging times. We were working for the service of Krishna. Prabhupada in the beginning, when I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, they told me, it's okay, you just give the book, people don't have to give donations. So I thought, oh, that's good. I didn't like asking people for money, you don't want to be out there asking people, trying to sell. No, people want to give, you can take the donation, but if they don't give, it's okay, just give them the book. So, okay, I thought, so we would do like that. But then a short while after I'd been a devotee, Prabhupada wrote another letter and said, everyone should pay. He said, any gentleman, he will give at least a quarter, meaning 25 cents US dollar. He said every gentleman will give at least a quarter for our magazine. That is the cost of our Back to Godhead magazine. So Prabhupada said, the temples are taking the books, they have to pay for them. They have to pay the BBT. Because the BBT needs the money to print more books. And if you take the books and don't pay for them, they won't be able to print any more books. So every temple takes books, they have to pay for the books. And so if they're going to pay for the books, you have to raise the money from the books, you have to sell the book. So that was the magazine. Then Prabhupada said, actual book distribution means big book. Not just selling little magazines. He said you should sell big books. He wanted the big books. So this way we were being challenged. Prabhupada was pushing us. He said, my Guru Maharaj pushed me, I am pushing you. And he did, he pushed us. We would distribute the books and we would feel so pleased. We'd show Prabhupada the result. Prabhupada would say, very good, now double it. This Prabhupada was just unbelievable. how to please him, how to satisfy him. No question, there's so much you can do for the service of Krishna. And so we were having more and more people join the Krishna consciousness movement. Somehow, in those days when I became a devotee, there were more and more young people joining the Krishna consciousness movement. And they were joining full-time. They were coming to be full-time devotees, to dedicate their life. So the temple was becoming full, difficult to accommodate everyone. We were looking for a new building. We were thinking where to get a building, and they found this one building. It was a church. So the devotee thought this would make a nice temple. We could have a temple here. And wrote to Prabhupada and told Prabhupada about it. That Prabhupada, this church, we think we could get this one to make a nice temple. Prabhupada wrote back, told us about chasing rhinoceros. He said, yes. Hunt for, when you go hunting, chase the rhino. Don't go for rabbits. If you miss a rabbit, everyone will act, wow. You say, you missed. But if you miss a rhino, they say, you're very difficult. Rhinos are big, powerful things. You took a big risk. But Prabhupada encouraged us like that, to always go for the big thing. Think big. When the devotees first came to India, they were looking for land in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada wanted to get something in Vrindavan, and the devotees went, and one devotee said to Prabhupada, why don't we get a place just like, something like Radha Damodar? Have you been to Vrindavan? You've all been there, right? You've seen Radha Damodar? Just a little temple, He said, why don't we get a place just like that, just like Radha Damodar, a small place? But Prabhupada said to the devotee, said, I cannot think small. I have to think big. He didn't want to do anything small. He wanted something that should be big. Prabhupada wanting, he's going to do, and Prabhupada would say to him, what is the good of you being American unless you do something wonderful for Krishna? In this way, Prabhupada would push the devotees more and more, get them to sacrifice everything for Krishna. And they got results, got wonderful results. You can see. People came forward, George Harrison donated the Bhaktivedanta Manor, beautiful place in the countryside, just in the outskirts of London. And then Ambarish Ford came, and Ambarish Ford, he donated his house in Hawaii, and then we helped to purchase the place. War. In 18 days, Krishna gave them the whole world. So it's Prabhupada said, be part of Krishna's 18-day plan. He can give you the whole world. Are you ready? Prabhupada wants us to think how the sky is the limit. There's no limit in Krishna consciousness. So I was with Prabhupada in Calcutta. I'd come to India. I'd gone to America, and I was in the USA for some time. And then His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami, at that time he was living in New York, and Prabhupada wanted him to come to India to take up some management for the society in India, because Prabhupada needed some Indian-bodied people to take on the management, to do the management. So Gopal Krishna Maharaj, he was Prabhu at that time, and he was in New York, and Prabhupada told him to come back to India. So when he was told to come back to India, he arranged with the temple president in New York. He said, you should give me some men to bring to India. Because at that time, there were very few devotees in India. We did not have temples. There was no temples anywhere, initially. Of course, the only devotees were the few Westerners who would come. You know, they used to call the Vrindavan temple Angrezi Mandir. You know that? Yeah? The Angrezi Mandir. Nowadays, of course, they don't call it that. It used to be like that. Because in those days, in the beginning, we were all Westerners. And we had come to begin the Krishna consciousness movement. So, Indian people gradually joined. But Gopal Krishna Prabhu was coming back to India, and so he wanted some men. And so I was there in New York, and he asked me to come, because he said, "You're British." And he said, for British people, it's easier to stay in India at that time. Not today. But at that time it was. At that time we didn't even need a visa. And Americans were having a very difficult time to get a visa for India. And there was even some consideration that, Americans, these Hare Krishna people, they're CIA agents. And they're coming to overthrow the Indian government. And something like that. You know, these kind of things were going on. And so it was difficult for American people to get visas to come to India. So Gopal Krishna brought me to India, and I came with him. In 1975, we came here to India. At that time, there was a very small center in Delhi, in Bengali market. We had a little rented house in Delhi, and there was the Vrindavan temple had been opened. That was opened. So people didn't like to stay in Delhi. Now we have wonderful temples, big temples here in Delhi. Changed a lot. And Mumbai, there was nothing in Mumbai. The devotees were living in Juhu, but there was no building, there was no temple. They were just living in tents. So it was very, very early days of the Krishna consciousness movement. But Prabhupada kept everything going, and he was always coming and always in touch with the leaders, and he would always come around and visit and see all the different centers and see the programs and see what's going on. So I remember one time we were in Calcutta, and Prabhupada always liked to see the prasadam. You know, wherever he was, wherever in the world, he would say, "Where's the prasadam? I want to see what you're serving to the guests. Let me see the prasadam." So he would always want to taste the prasadam. That happened one day in Calcutta. The fruit offering came off the altar. So Prabhupada said, "Bring me some fruit, let me see what we've offered to the deity." And then Prabhupada saw the fruit and he tasted it. And then he said, "Who has purchased this fruit?" And so they said, "Oh, Devu purchased it." Devu is a Bengali man, young man who used to come to temple. He used to do service. So he was Bengali, so they would get him to buy the fruit. You know, being a local man, a bit easier for him. So anyway, Prabhupada said, oh, Debu brought the fruit. He said, tell Debu to come here. So Debu went in to see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada told him, he said, you're Bengali, you don't know how to buy fruit. He said, you're Bengali, you should know how to buy fruit. This fruit you bought for the needs is terrible. So Prabhupada was so careful, so particular like that. You know, he cared a lot about everything. If the prasadam was not good, he would say, this is terrible, who cooked this? He was very particular. And then accounts also, the budget, the money for the temple, especially like here in India, as well as in the UK, we're registered. We're registered and we have tax exemption. And so if you want to get tax exemption, you have to have accounts. You have to show your accounts every year. So Prabhupada came, he said, where are the accounts? I want to see the accounts. Who's keeping the accounts? Prabhupada would look at the accounts and see everything that being done properly. He was very concerned. They do everything nicely. And it should be done also legally. In this way, the Krishna consciousness movement can become more established and bona fide, recognized, and respected. And so Prabhupada put so much energy, not only into writing his books, but into managing the society and overseeing the affairs of society. Especially in places like Mayapur and Vrindavan, which were very, very important places, holy places. So whenever Prabhupada would come to Mayapur, he would go around the grounds, he'd see what's going on around the place. And it was in Mayapur that it happened one day that Prabhupada saw all the children that they were fighting over the garbage that had been thrown out. The children, the neighborhood children, the local children were fighting over the garbage, and the dogs were there and they were fighting with the dogs. The dogs were trying to eat and the children were trying to eat. And Prabhupada saw the situation. Prabhupada was very concerned. And at that time, Prabhupada gave the order, no one should go hungry within 5 miles of the temple. And they began the Food for Life program, distributing prasadam. Nowadays, of course, it's different. Now in Mayapur, people, there's not that poverty which was there in 1970s. It's much better now. People have more money now. People come for prasadam in big numbers, and they pay. They all pay something. They take prasadam. They're happy to come and take prasadam there. So times change a bit, but Prabhupada was concerned. It shows Prabhupada's compassionate nature, his concern for everyone, that they should be properly provided for. Prabhupada would also go around the grounds and look and see everything's clean, is it all being maintained nicely. One day he was walking around and he opened the door of a toilet and he saw inside the toilet it was not clean. And Prabhupada was very upset. And he said, he gave the example, because Prabhupada had studied chemistry, so he gave a chemical equation. Base plus acid gives salt plus water. Right? You know that? Anybody who studied chemistry a little bit, you'll know that very basic equation. When you bring a base in contact with an acid, there will be a reaction. And Prabhupada used this to give the example. A Brahmana, when he contacts a dirty place, he has to clean it. He cannot leave it dirty. He must clean the place. Very important. If you don't clean the place, you lose your old status. You fall from the Brahminical factory. So very important to understand these things. So Prabhupada was training us like this, keep everything clean. One time in London, we were worshipping on the altar. So on the London temple was arranged. on the lower level was Radha Mandanishwara, and we had Jagannath Baladev Subhadra above them on the top. And there was like a shelf there with Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and Radha Mandanishwara was below. So Prabhupada came for the deity greeting, and somehow we'd only put flowers around Radha Mandanishwara, and there were no vases on top around Jagannath. Prabhupada immediately noticed. Why? Why so much here? Nothing there. He pointed out, said, you must put flowers there also. Said, why I'm the only one to notice these things? Why other people don't notice these things? Another time we got the pictures of the disciplic succession. You know, we were rushing to get the altar ready for Prabhupada coming to open the curtains on time. And somehow we put the pictures of the disciplic succession in the wrong order. You know, sometimes people don't know who's who and what's proper order. And they get Gaura Kishore Das Babaji mixed up with Jagannath Das Babaji and sometimes even Bhakti, you know, they just get it all wrong. So we had the pictures wrong, and Prabhupada was very upset. Prabhupada said, look at this, who's done this? He would chastise us. So that is the mercy of the spiritual master. When you get chastised by the spiritual master, that's his special mercy. And we should appreciate these moments. That he cares so much for us. He's guiding us, training us. And Prabhupada told himself how he got corrected by his own spiritual master. Prabhupada told he was sitting listening to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati one time. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was giving a lecture, and Prabhupada was sitting there in the audience. And he was sitting there, and it happened, somebody behind him touched him on the shoulder. An elderly man who was sitting behind him touched him on the shoulder. So Prabhupada turned around, looked around, and immediately Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, you too! Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati noticed that, and he pointed out to the two. He said to the man who had touched Prabhupada's shoulder, he said to him, do you think you have purchased me because you donate 10 rupees every month? And then he said to Prabhupada, to our own founder Acharya, he said, do you want to come up here and talk? And Prabhupada said, I was mortified. He said, I could have died on the spot. He said, it was a moment of greatest mercy to get the chastisement from the spiritual master. So Prabhupada, he also chastised us. As he got chastised by his Guru, he also would chastise us regularly. What he wanted. How we have to do things, how we have to be careful to keep the standards and not to compromise. He wanted very much that the Krishna consciousness movement would come of age, it would mature nicely. And he knew that in the future there will be many temples and there will be many devotees. But he also was concerned that we should keep the standards, don't compromise. You know, sometimes people say, oh, 16 rounds is too many. If we just have to chant 4 rounds, it would be good. But 16 rounds, oh, it's too many. And then after, if you make it 4 rounds, then you'll say 4 rounds is too many. And then say it should be 1 round. And then they'll say 1 round, just chant. When you feel like it. Like that, everything will become useless. And sometimes people say, 4 principles is too strict, too much. 4 principles. If it was just 3 principles, we could have many devotees. Now, some people say like that, say, why 4 principles? Should just be 3. No? No. If it's only 3, means no pure devotees. If it's 4 principles, then it's a movement of pure devotees. But if it's only 3 principles, then no pure devotees. Everybody's engaging in sinful activities. So that's the difference. We want a movement of pure devotees, and then great things can happen. The Krishna consciousness movement can change the face of the world by preaching Krishna consciousness. Just simply by chanting, book distribution, the world is changing. We may say, well, we haven't gone very far. We've got wars between Russia and Ukraine. You've got so many things going on between China and Taiwan, and here and there. There's Afghanistan and this and that. What has Krishna consciousness done? Actually, Krishna consciousness has helped a lot for those people who are willing to hear. There are 2 classes of people. We have the devotees and the demons. Those who are not devotees, they are the asuras, the demons. Though they have their demonic qualities, that's there. But the devotees are becoming more and more. There are more and more devotees growing everywhere. We see more and more people taking interest in Krishna consciousness. And we hope it will go on. It will go on if we are faithful, if we are strict and keep up the standards which Srila Prabhupada has given us. Alright, so I will ask, is there any questions? Anybody want to ask? Anyone? Any comment or question? Yes, Prabhu?
Thank you so much for wonderful class, Maharaj. Wonderful pastime of Prabhupada and relation. So I just wanted to ask one thing, Maharaj. Whenever I see that you carry so much enthusiasm and energy to serve all the Vaishnavas and Prabhupada movement, which I just, this year in Navadvip Mandal Parikrama, I saw you, Maharaj. The movement, the enthusiasm level which you carry and inspire you. So I just want to know the secret and inspiration. How do you carry, Maharaj, that? The secret behind your...
The secret?
I mean...
Well, where do we become enthusiastic? We get enthusiasm by association with other enthusiastic devotees. We see other wonderful devotees doing so much for Krishna. Wonderful devotees like Gopal Krishna Goswami and Jagpataka Swami, Bhaktivika Swami. They're doing so much. They're traveling so much. They're so active, preaching. And so we get a little enthusiasm from seeing the nice examples of other people. Enthusiasm is contagious. You get it from others. You associate. You always want to associate with enthusiastic people. Enthusiasm is described in the Nectar of Instruction. Srila Prabhupada describes what is enthusiasm. Endeavoring with intelligence in the service of Krishna. That is how Prabhupada describes enthusiasm. Not just being wild, oh, Haribo, not enthusiasm, intelligence, endeavoring with intelligence for the service of Krishna. So we have to remember that also. We use our intelligence in the proper manner for the service of Krishna. And take inspiration from nice devotees who are successful and trying very hard to please Prabhupada. We want to keep that motivation there, that we want to please Prabhupada. We want to try to satisfy Prabhupada. We should always think, will Prabhupada be pleased with my efforts? Yeah, any other question? Anyone? So do you all go to Mayapur? You've all been to Mayapur?
Yes.
Yes. Do you come to the Navadvip Parigram?
Yes, sir.
Yes? No? No?
Yes, sir.
The Navadvip Parikrama, very nice. Of course soon we will have the Braja Manga Parikrama, the Kartik month. Some devotees like to go to Braja, do Braja Parikrama for a month. If you have the time, there's a lot of purification there. But your home is also a holy place. Make your home like Vrindavan or like Mayapur. You don't become Krishna conscious just by going to the place. You have to develop the consciousness wherever you are. Just like Prabhupada went to America, but Prabhupada said, I'm always in Vrindavan. I'm always thinking of Krishna. So it's not just buying a ticket which takes us into the holy Dham, but it's changing the consciousness. And we have to develop the consciousness of devotees by regularly hearing and chanting through the association of devotees. So I was hearing many wonderful devotees are coming and visiting you here. You get a lot of association. You're blessed. So many different sannyasis are coming here and visiting here. Other places, they don't get that. Somehow, I don't know, you're so fortunate, and you should appreciate that you get that special attention. That so many senior spiritual teachers, spiritual leaders are coming here and spending time here to guide you and to give you association. So take advantage, continue yourself, take advantage of their association to hear and hear carefully. Srila Prabhupada came for initiation from his spiritual master, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said to him, oh yes, I have noted him. He likes to hear. He does not go away. You know, sometimes people come, whenever you begin the lecture, they go away. Or they go to sleep. You know, we joke about it. We say, when we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, it's the go to sleep mantra. And when we say Sharira Abhijajao, that's the wake up mantra. So that's not very ideal, but unfortunately it's like that. Yeah. We do want to hear carefully. We need to hear, and we need to develop that taste for hearing. And in the beginning, it's not so easy. And Srila Prabhupada also told us, he said when he used to hear his own spiritual teacher in the beginning, he could not understand. But he did not go away. So that's important. So even though we don't understand, don't go away. Just like these young men, they're very young men. But they're hearing, they're not going away. It's very good. They must be very nice devotees. So very pleased to see that the young people are also taking an interest in Krishna consciousness. The children are the future of our Krishna consciousness movement. So we do need to care and give them more and more facility and encouragement to take up Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
All of us, like we had a wonderful time this evening hearing about Srila Prabhupada and his pastimes. Thank you very much, Maharaj. We pray that you please come here more often and like now inspire us like this. Hare Krishna. Like now, let's thank Maharaj one more time by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Tomorrow, Maharaj will be there in the Mangalarti. Hare Krishna. Please all of you come.
क्लोज कर दो।